All right, so for today's lesson, guys, we're actually going to be working with solving angles of intersecting lines. So we're going to have, in this case, a couple lines in this case, and we want to go ahead and see what the angles of those are. So we do have to do some work in this case, try to determine what those angles are. Let's go ahead and start off in this case with example number 1. Now, in example number 1, we actually have a few things. They're actually just telling us one thing here. They're telling us that line M and N are parallel, which means those lines aren't going to be touching. They're not parallel. And then we have two other lines in this case, which are these ones that run horizontally and vertically. Those lines in this case, although they're crossing, we can't assume that they're going to be perpendicular, which means this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be 90 degrees on each of those angles. So we can't really determine that. So let's actually take a look at the image here. Right, now our goal is to solve for x. X is here in this case, so we want to go ahead and see what we can do, play around with some things here to see what we could do with the x. All right, now in this case, we want to go ahead and actually do a few things. Let's say I want to go ahead and actually find this angle here. Let's say I want to go ahead and find this angle. Now, if I want to go ahead and find this angle, I really can't use the 29 to try to solve for that. I actually need to try to use the 121 to solve for it. Now, if I were to actually connect these two angles here, that actually forms 180 degrees. So question here is, what do we have to do to solve for this missing angle that's in this case, the purple section, which is here, right? So in order for us to actually find that angle, we're going to go ahead and do, let's do it in purple. We're going to go ahead and actually do 180 minus 121. Whatever we get there would actually be that angle, which in this case is going to be 59 degrees. So this here is 59 degrees. Now, another thing I want to go ahead and talk about here is that if you have a triangle, let me actually make this thinner. If you have in this case a triangle, and if you take a look at this here, I'm actually able to form a triangle with 3 of the lines here, right? This here is a triangle. Now the sum, let me go ahead and do it in orange. I'm gonna say the sum of the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So in this case, if I want to go ahead and actually find this side here that I just went over in orange, I actually have to basically add these two and then subtract it from 180. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and do it in orange here. I'll do it on the top. Let's go ahead and do it up here. All right. So once again, the sum has to be 180. And I'm actually going to go ahead and subtract that from whatever I get with 29 degrees plus 59 degrees. All right. If I add those two in this case, let's go ahead and do 180, once again, degrees minus, what is that going to be? 88. In this case, 88. If we actually subtract those two, that should equal for us a 92 degrees. So in this case, this angle here is going to be 92 degrees. That is going to be 92 degrees. See if I can actually change the color here. Let's do it red. Thinner red. There you go. So in this case, we actually found those angles. Now, your question is, how do we apply that to what x is, right? Now, I want you guys to take a look at the following. I'm actually going to go ahead and go over it in green. Go over it in green. I want you guys to take a look at, let's get a thinner one. I want you guys to take a look at this line and our parallel lines. Now, just because we're given a total of 4 different lines here doesn't necessarily mean that we have to use them all to help us determine, in this case, the angles, right? Now, if you take a look at this here, this actually seems something that we're more familiar with. We have seen this, where in this case, you have 2 parallel lines cut by 1 line. We could actually use this to determine what x is. Now, if you guys recall from when we were talking with parallel lines and transversals, we said in this case that lines that are, or actually angles that are right across from each other, we'll go ahead and do this one here, that are right across from each other are actually vertical angles. They're equal to each other, right? So those two actually equal 59. I could also say that this angle, which I'm going over in that magenta looking color, is also going to be 59 because it's a alternate interior angle with this one here. And that being said, now makes in this case x and this angle vertical angles. Therefore, x for us is going to be equal to 59 degrees. So in this case, x is equal to 59 degrees by, I don't know, we can say that they're going to be corresponding angles, maybe, by corresponding angles. With 59 degrees, right? Or I could have also said that it's a vertical angle from this one, or that it's an alternate exterior from those. So there's a couple ways to determine, you know, how they're the same. All right. So in this case, I did do a little extra work, guys, in showing this one here. That one wasn't really necessary, but I did go the extra step in this case just to show how we get that third angle. But in this case, once again, we use the green lines to determine x. So that is example number 1. All right, example number 1. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at example number 2. Look at this one. This is a triangle within a triangle. We actually have 4 different triangles here. Hopefully, you guys can see those 4 triangles. We do have 4 of them, right? We have the big one in this case, right? This big one, right? That's 1. And then we also have the 3 small ones, which is 1 here, 1 there, and 1 there, right? Or actually, there's more. There's actually 5. I'm not sure if you guys see it, but it's those 3, right? The big one. And then if I combine these 2, we have another one. So I did not see that until now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the information that they're giving us, right? We want to go ahead and find the missing angles. Now, in this case, I'm not really asking you a specific one. We're just going to be looking for all of them. Now, a few information in this case is these here. Whenever you see a box, or in this case, a little box in the corner, it's actually telling you that the angle is 90 degrees. So I'm actually going to go ahead and label that. This here is 90 degrees. That there is also, all of it in this case is 90 degrees. And this one as well is 90 degrees. Now, because this one here is 90 degrees, I could also say that the one next to it is also 90 degrees. So that one there is also a 90 degree. That's 90 degrees. If you guys could actually see other ones, if we take a look at this one here, right? If that one angle is 90 and I'm able to form a line with these 2, then this angle as well would be 90, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the other angles, right? Let's say I want to go ahead and find this one here. I want to go ahead and find that one. I want to go ahead and find this top one and any other ones. We'll just go ahead and do those, right? So starting off in this case, I do have 32 degrees on this side here, right? 32 degrees. Now, if I focus in this case on our bigger triangle, once again, this here is the bigger triangle. That there is our bigger triangle, right? I did say that the sum of the angles of a triangle have to equal 180, right? And I'm actually just missing this one on top. I'm just missing that one on top. So if I want to go ahead and find that one in pink, I actually have to do 180. Let's do 180 minus the 90 degree plus the 32 degrees. So we have to add these 2 angles and then subtract it from 180. So that's going to be 180 degrees minus, what is that going to be? 122. So in this case, that should give us 58 58 degrees. So in this case, this pink angle here, this one, is going to be 58 degrees. So that's the pink one. That is 58 degrees, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the other ones here. If I actually apply that same idea with, in this case, let's say this smaller triangle, the one that I'll go ahead and do, let's do it in yellow. Let's do it in this one, actually. If I do this one here, notice in this case, it still has the same angles as the larger one. Although it's a smaller one, right? It's still, they could be considered in this case similar or congruent triangles. Congruent triangles. Or similar triangles. One of those two, right? Based on their angles, right? So if we take a look at the one in blue, this angle could also be 58 degrees. So that angle there in blue is also 58 degrees. Because if you take a look at the types of angles they have a 90 and they have a 32, which is the same as the other one. That leaves in this case our purple one. Let's go ahead and see. If we want to go ahead and find the purple, once again, all of that is going to be 180. So let's go ahead and do a different one here. 180 minus the 90 degrees minus the 58 degrees. That's actually going to give us 180 minus, actually that's going to be plus, minus, what is that going to be? 148 degrees. So that's going to give us 32 degrees. So that purple angle is actually 32 degrees. All right. And in this case, we could probably say that this here is also 32 degrees. And this here is 58 degrees. Because you also want to go ahead and see it. Like, once again, all the angles are going to be repeating. This is 58, that's 58, that's 58. So you do repeat a lot of the angles here. Repeat a lot of the angles. So the angles we worked with in this case, once again, were 58, 32, and 90 degrees. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And here's our next one. Example 3. It says, in the following diagram, we have the segment of HI parallel to JK, right? Which in this case would be these ones here, right? Those are parallel. Those are parallel. Now it says, what is the measurement of X? We want to go ahead and solve for whatever X is. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, a few things. Since we're looking for X, we actually have to find this angle first, and then we could go ahead and determine, you know, play around with these ones to see what X is. So I actually want to focus on two parallel lines and a transversal. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on this line here along with this one. And we're going to go ahead and focus on this one, right? That's in purple. So once again, guys, I want to go ahead and see what angles are the same as 63. I know the one right across, which is vertical, that's 63 degrees. I also know that the one that's inside, it's alternate interior, that's also 63. So in this case, that makes the angle that is inside the triangle with X to be 63 degrees. All right. So all of those in this case are going to be 63 degrees. All of those are 63 degrees based on the two parallel lines that we have and the transversal. Now, once again, we mentioned that if we're working with the triangle, the sum of those triangles in this case adds up to 180 degrees, 180 degrees. So if we want to go ahead and find X, we are going to be doing 180 minus 45 degrees plus 63 degrees. And whatever we get there would actually give us the value of X. So 180 degrees minus, what is that going to be? 108 and degrees. That should give us a total of 72 degrees. So in this case, X, which is, we'll do it in blue, x here. That's actually going to be, let's do it again. This one here is going to be 72 degrees. And that was that one there, 72 degrees. All right. So we do have to play around once again, like I said, with the lines that were given to working around as well with the angles that were given to determine what we're trying to find. Let's take a look at the next one. And this one's a pretty fun one, a star. I want to go ahead and take a look at the star here, and we want to go ahead and find what the measurement of x is. Once again, guys, these angles are not drawn to scale, so if you try to use, in this case, a protractor, it's not really going to work. So try and look for angle x, right? And we do have, in this case, a star where we have how many triangles? We have the obvious one, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if you take a closer look, you actually have more than that. Aside from those 5, I actually have another one here, and it's a bigger one. Notice in this case, the star has more triangles. So this is another one. I have another one here in purple, right? And then I have another one here. So aside from the original 5, you have a total of 8 different triangles. 8 different triangles you can work with, all right? So let me just erase that. Now, knowing that in this case, let's go ahead and see what we could do to work with our x in this case, right? So, first of all, I know that because this here is x, let's go ahead and do that in blue, because that there is x. I know that this here is also going to be x, right? I don't necessarily have to leave the x on the outside. Once again, I could actually bring it on the inside since that's where most of my angles are going to be, all right? So I know that that's going to be x. Now, the next thing is I actually need to find this angle here. Now, if you take a look here, the 107 actually forms a line with the angle that we're missing. So once again, if those two are forming the line, they have to add up to 180. So in order for us to actually find this missing angle here, we're going to go ahead and do, let's do it here. We're going to go ahead and do 180 minus 107. And that in this case would give us a 73. So that's degrees. That's actually going to give us 73 degrees. So in this case, this inside angle is 73 degrees. So if we want to go ahead and find x, we are going to be using this triangle here. We didn't get too fancy and use the bigger ones, but we're going to go ahead and use this one here. So now we have to do the 180 minus 31 degrees plus 73 degrees. Notice in this case, guys, I do put parentheses. I could also express it as 180 degrees minus 31 minus 73. I could do that too. It's the same thing. I'll just keep it with the parentheses here. So that's going to give us 180 minus 31 plus 73 will give us 104 degrees. So in this case, our value for x should actually be 76 degrees. So x in this case, we'll do equals x is going to be 76 degrees. That's going to be 76 degrees. So that would actually be our final answer for that one. Final answer. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the last one here. And the last one is actually a practice problem for you to complete. You do need to solve for x in this case. So in order for us to do that, we do need to find this missing angle and then work ourselves to see what we could do to solve for x.